This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and I asked and you folks said yes. So here we have a smackdown between two Windows 8.1 convertibles. Pretty nice laptops, each of them the Dell Inspiron 13 7000. This is the SE model special edition that we have in here for review. And this is the venerable HP Spectre x360 with the beautiful aluminum build, slim design. A lot of things in common. You can get them with the usual ULV Intel Core i5, i7 CPUs and 5th generation, of course, 8 gigs of RAM, solid state storage. The Dell is a little bit more of going all over the place. It's all things to all people, a lot of different configurations, and we're going to talk about that now. All right, so here we have a big name brand, all American Smackdown, two of the last standing American PC companies, both large manufacturers. We have the Dell Inspiron 13 7000 series. Here we have the HP Spectre x360. First off, for HP, the Spectre is their high line in Ultrabooks. It's their more expensive stuff that's got all the best bells and whistles going on. The Inspiron line stands below the XPS, which is Dell's high line. And interestingly for this comparison, and now this model is the special edition, it's $999, it's at a higher end configuration. There are lower end non-special edition ones that you can get for considerably less money, so we'll talk about that too. For this one, obviously price-wise open to a lot more people than something that's priced around $1,000. That said, both of these are 13.3-inch convertibles. They do the yoga hinge thing, 360-degree hinge, so you can use them as a laptop in presentation mode, in tent mode, and in tablet mode as well. And both of them support digital pens. They both use Synaptics technology. This is HP's pen right here, and this is Dell's pen. Both of these are active pens. I actually prefer using the Dell pen on both of these. It behaves a bit better. Not the end of the world. The HP pen isn't terrible, but personally I picked up the Dell pen and I do use it with the HP Spectre x360. So both of these have the versatility of allowing you to do handwritten notes, diagrams, math equations, drawing, all that sort of thing, which is one of the reasons why these guys are perfect for a smackdown together. And at the higher end, they are priced similarly. Now, the Spectre x360, the most common model available, at least here in the United States, is the $999 model, and that gets you 5th generation. Both of these are 5th generation Intel Core i5, 2.2 gigahertz CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gig SSD. Now, for the same $999, that's what our model is right here, you get a Core i7, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 256 gig SSD. The difference between a ULV Ultrabook Core i5 and i7 isn't that huge. Mostly it's more the clock speed, going from 2.2 to 2.4 gigahertz. They're both dual core. They really same technology, same wattage there. So 7% improvement in performance or so. So I wouldn't let that be a deal breaker, the fact that you can get the Core i7 for the same price. For those who do want the Core i7, that's $1149 list price for the HP. All other configurations the same. 1080p display on both of these, IPS display on both of these. With HP, they do have a QHD 2560 by 1440 option. In the United States, that gets bundled with all the highest end configuration options, like the Core i7, the 8 gigs of RAM, and all that sort of thing. So that one's $1349. If you do build to order, you may be able to get it with the Core i5 if you want, or if you're in a different country. So for those of you who prefer a higher resolution display, that is available. With the Inspiron, it tops out at 1080p. In fact, the cheapest model is 1366 by 768 resolution. And the cheapest model, let's talk about that. The Inspiron runs the gamut here. The lower edition model starts around $530, considerably cheaper than either of these two that are sitting on the table right now. But that gets you the 1366 by 768 IPS display, at least. That part's nice. And a 500 gig, 5400 conventional hard drive, 5400 RPM. So kind of a slow hard drive there, 4 gigs of RAM, and a Pentium. Pentium's a pretty slow CPU. Probably if you're looking at a nice machine like the Inspiron, you're looking for something higher. It's available with the Core i3. You get up to around $799 Core i5. There are various configuration options. So you can see why the Inspiron is more all things to, well, maybe not all people, but many people. Runs the gamut. In terms of build quality and design, I would say it's something like pitting a Jaguar against a Camaro. You know, this has the all-American hunky good looks. It is thicker, it is a bit heavier. This Spectre x360, 3.26 pounds versus the Dell, which is 3.7 pounds. When using it in convertible mode, you will notice the difference. You can see it's a little bit thicker too, the Dell. It's got a chunky sort of good looks, definitely rugged, very rigid, sturdy. Soft touch finish on the SE edition is quite nice. By no means cheap, by no means the apex of chic and European styling, but it's not a bad looking machine, and inside you get the nice brushed metal wrist pad area, that sort of thing. It's a combination of metal and plastics, this laptop. Now our HP is metal everywhere, very slim, very sleek with this cut off, beautiful machined metal sides. Really sleek, really lovely, a bit thinner. It's one of the few Windows laptops that really looks good next to a MacBook Pro. I have to say the design lines are just so clean, the fit and finish are perfect on this. That if you care about looks and lightness and thinness, then the HP is going to grab some points for that. While we're looking at the side, you can see we have both a mini display port and a full-size HDMI port. We have our USB 3.0 ports here, headphone jack. This side over here we have another USB 3.0 port, SD card slot, and both of these have volume and power buttons on the side just in case you're using them in tablet mode. The Dell does not have the mini display port. For those of you who want to daisy chain monitors or drive high resolution displays or simply find an easy way to hook up two monitors at once, that's going to make a difference. If you don't want to do those things, then, well, you don't care about it. So full-size HDMI, no mini display port, two USB 3.0 ports right there, the usual headphone jack, they all have that. And on this side, a USB 2.0 port. So 3 USB ports on both of these. HPs are all 3.0. This one has a 2.0 port. Probably you don't care that much about that either, to be honest, because with a mouse or a keyboard, something like that, you're going to be plugging in a USB 3.0 doesn't make a difference for those kind of peripherals. It's for fast hard drives and stuff like that that you care if you actually have a USB 3 camera that you're transferring photos from. SD card slot as well. Now both of these are your usual Ultrabook design, which means there is no release a latch, slide the battery out. The battery is under the cover. With both of these, it's pretty easy to remove the bottom cover. You're going to need a Torx screwdriver for the HP. You're going to need a Phillips head for the Dell. And once you open them up, you do have access to the battery inside, should it ever need to be serviced for replacement, if it gets old, that sort of thing. Hard drive differences in here. The Dell uses a standard 2.5-inch hard drive bay. That's because they make it available with both conventional hard drives and for SSDs. So you have a standard SATA 3 2.5-inch drive bay. HP goes with an M2 slot for their SSD, and this is available only with SSDs. SATA 3 interface on the drive that is installed there. 8 gigs of RAM is maximum for both of these. With HP, the RAM is soldered on board. With Dell, it has one RAM slot, but the biggest RAM module you can buy typically is 8 gigs. There's one company that's working on 16 gig modules that only work with Intel 5th generation CPUs, which these do have. So there you have it. Ventilation differences, bigger vent area versus the Dell. And it does make a bit of a difference. I'd say the fan comes on a little bit more with the Dell. Nothing obnoxious, nothing problematic. Also, the HP, despite the conductive aluminum bottom, really doesn't get hot. Unless you're doing something like, well, I admit I was playing Tropico for 2 hours the other night, and then it'll get hot. Otherwise, not so much. The Dell, if you're exporting full HD video, if you're working it hard, it'll get warm over here, pretty warm. It's not going to get burning hot, but I'd say slightly better ventilation going on with the HP. Speaking of those batteries that are sealed inside, 43 watt-hour battery versus 55 watt-hour in the HP. So chalk up one for the Spectre x360 again. Higher capacity battery, and indeed, we're talking about 1080p versus 1080p because QHD, higher resolution panels can use more power, but keeping it level at 1080p. The HP is a pretty darn good Energizer Bunny. About 8.5 hours, 9 hours. I typically average during mixed productivity use with some video streaming in there, a little photo editing. Under the same use case with the Dell, about 6 to 6.5 hours. Now, opening them up to look inside, I will give points to Dell for having your traditional black keys with white lettering on them. Both of these have backlit keyboards. HP went for the aesthetically pleasing. Look at that. It's all silver. Looks nice, right? Well, it's a little hard in some lighting to see the keys. Not particularly when it's bright like it is right now, because then the dark masking, you can see it fine. I mean, when it's kind of dim light and the keyboard backlighting comes on and the letters become white on silver, that's not the most ingenious thing. If it's really dark, you can see them just fine. It's just that kind of twilighty in-between thing that can be a problem. The HP has the Mondo giant trackpad. HP is into doing that. I don't know why it's as big as an iPhone 6. And look, it really is. I'm not kidding. See that? Some people might find that annoying. It has pretty smart software that avoids accidental palm triggering when you're typing on the keys, so I haven't had a problem with it. Some people might actually like to have more room to work with gestures. It's a very reliable, well-behaved trackpad. I like it quite well. The Dell trackpad is absolutely more normal in size. It's also very well-behaved. It's one of the nicest trackpads I've found in Windows land, which might not say much if you're used to a Mac trackpad under OS X, but still, it's very good. They're really close in terms of how good they are, to be honest. It's really as to whether or not you have something against the oversized trackpad. Both of these have quite good key travel. I mean, these are thin laptops, and they both have nice tactile feel and damped keys. They're both very nice to type with. Both of them are very enjoyable if you're the kind of person who has to write a lot, as I do. They also both have the 360-degree hinge, like I mentioned, so you can fold them over in tent mode, you can do presentation mode, you can turn them into tablets. This particularly is where the 3.26 versus 3.68 pounds comes in. It does feel a little thinner, a little bit more nimble when you're using it as a tablet. Of course, if we just keep it down on the table and say, well, they're all really too heavy to be holding for very long, then it matters somewhat less. Both of them have Synaptics digitizers with a pen, and you can watch our full review of each of these to see them in action. The digitizers on these tablets / laptops themselves work equally as well. My preference for the Dell pen, it's not a night and day better difference. You buy the pen separately anyway. The pen is not bundled with these. So you could buy the HP and buy the Dell pen if you wanted to. So I really don't think that topic is really worth being a point of contention. They both work equally as well. They have pressure sensitivity, palm rejection. Nice job either way. So how about performance? Both of these are running on the same Intel 5th generation Ultrabook platform, ULV 15-watt CPUs with Intel HD 5500 integrated graphics. No dedicated graphics option for either of these. So you'd expect them to score similarly. Both of these happen to have the Core i7-5500U with the base clock speed of 2.4 gigahertz, 8 gigs of RAM on each of these, and both have a 256 gig SSD drive. The HP, though, however, has a little bit of advantage because HP worked very closely with Microsoft to optimize the drivers and the software for the Spectre x360 to make it as quick as possible. In fact, it was the poster child of the last Microsoft Developer Conference where they actually gave developers one of these. So good target there for Windows 10 practice, apparently. Anyway, it does score a bit faster. On benchmarks for PC Mark 7, the Dell Inspiron scored 4662 versus 5300 on our Spectre x360. For PC Mark 8 Home Accelerated, the HP scored 3053 versus 2826 on the Dell. So you're getting a little bit of a performance boost from the HP given the same configuration on both of these. When it comes to the displays, both of these are very good displays with wide color gamut, approaching 100% of sRGB on either of these. HP had better color calibration out of the box. You can twiddle with the colors yourself and adjust them or actually calibrate them using a colorimeter if that's important to you. The Dell was tuned more coolly than the HP was. Too cool, kind of washing things out a little bit. But again, that's really just a software adjustment setting to worry about. In terms of brightness, 335 nits of brightness for the 1080p HP Spectre x360 versus 290 nits of brightness for the Dell Inspiron 13-7000 series with the 1080p display. Now HP does make a QHD display. We have not had that one in for review. Some folks say that one's not quite as bright as the 1080p model. That's anecdotal. I haven't seen it myself or tested it, so I can't tell you if that's true or not. So a little edge for the HP in terms of color calibration and brightness. They both do quite good on color gamut. They are both wildly reflective beasts. They both do plenty of glare, and there's no matte option on either of these. With the speakers, both of these have stereo speakers, down-firing audio, but both are surprisingly pretty loud and full. I think the HP has slightly clearer audio, a little bit fuller. I really enjoy actually listening to the audio on this, but the Dell is no slouch either. One thing to mention, the Dell has magnets right under the case area over here to help keep it shut, so be careful of what you put over here. Like this pen is being pulled onto here. Don't put your credit cards over here, folks. Anyway, both of these real nice machines, very strongly built, similarly configured. I'd say the HP Spectre x360 is the winner, but for those of you who are looking for something where you can slide in under the $1,000 mark by a lot, now there is an $899 configuration for the HP that has a little bit less stuff going on. Still got a Core i5 in there, but the Dell is there for the versatility. For those of you who might be considering a Core i3, for example, the HP is a higher line item. It's Core i5, Core i7. It's SSD only, where the Dell you can actually get a hard drive. You could upgrade it yourself later if you want. So that's the HP Spectre x360 versus the Dell Inspiron 13. Now, for some of you folks, it's going to be an easy decision because you vastly prefer the brand HP or Dell. Otherwise, if you're looking for the higher end configuration, I would lean towards the Spectre x360. It's thinner, it's lighter, it's metal everywhere. You get that mini display port on here. It's really just a gorgeous machine. But for those of you who are looking for something more affordable, the Dell Inspiron, if you don't go for the special edition model, is available in some very affordable configurations because, well, the Inspiron line covers a whole gamut of potential buyers. It's not the high line for HP. The Spectre line is their high line. For Dell, that would be the XPS. Either way, you're definitely getting a quality laptop with some very good configuration options. Solid build quality, should last several years very easily, and that versatile convertible design with support for the pen too. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch both of our video reviews, read our written reviews on mobiletechreview.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.